In the winter of February 1959, searchers pushing through a brutal blizzard on Kholat Syilk, a peak known to the local indigenous people as Dud Mountain, discovered an abandoned canvas tent. Inside, the scene defied explanation. Investigators found heavy coats, thick boots, rations, and survival gear, all neatly arranged. Everything a human body needs to survive a lethal sub-zero night was sitting perfectly intact, left completely behind. But the tent itself was destroyed. It was sliced wide open, exposing the empty interior directly to the savage freezing winds. Looking closely at the frayed edges of the canvas revealed a terrifying detail. The cuts were not made near the entrance flap to untie it. Someone took a blade directly to the thick fabric and frantically cut their way out from the inside. The team, led by 23-year-old engineering student Igor Dyatlov, knew exactly what the cold could do. These were elite, deeply experienced survivalists. They understood with absolute certainty that stepping into a frozen mountain storm half-naked guaranteed a fast, painful death. These were people totally comfortable operating in deep snow and punishing weather. They followed strict routines and possessed intense discipline. They made no amateur mistakes. This creates a central contradiction. A threat emerged that was so horrifying, it overrode the deeply ingrained instincts of 9 survival experts, making freezing to death in the dark feel like the safer option. Outside the ruined tent, investigators found a trail. 9 sets of footprints led away from the campsite and straight down the slope. These were made by socked and completely bare feet pressing deep into the snow. The prints tell a highly specific story. The group wasn't sprinting in a blind, chaotic panic. The steps are close together. They walked as a single unit, forming a disciplined line, as if they were trying to slip away quietly and avoid detection. Nearly a mile away, at the dark forest's edge, searchers made their first grim discovery. Beneath a massive cedar tree lay 2 bodies. They were almost totally naked, their skin severely burned and torn by the sheer cold. The area around the tree was marked by desperate activity. Searchers found the remains of a tiny fire sitting in the snow. High above, thick branches of the cedar tree had been snapped off by human hands 15 feet in the air. You do not climb a freezing tree in pitch blackness for firewood. You climb to get a vantage point, to look back up the dark slope and see if whatever drove you out of your shelter is still standing there. They clearly realized they could not stay in the woods. Searchers found 3 more frozen bodies spaced out between the tree and the ruined tent. Their positions show they died desperately trying to crawl back to their camp. The physical evidence maps out a precise timeline of terror, an initial silent escape, a freezing attempt to hide, and finally, a fatal realization that they must return to the tent they destroyed, a journey they never finished. It took months for the spring thaw to reveal the final 4 members of the team. They were buried deep beneath heavy snow in a rocky ravine. Their condition shifts the investigation away from simple exposure and toward extreme violence. Autopsies revealed massive internal trauma. Medical examiners documented completely crushed rib cages and a heavily fractured skull. The blunt force required to cause these injuries is massive, comparable to the direct impact of a car crash. Yet the skin remained completely untouched. The bones shattered while the outside showed no bruising or soft tissue damage. Then the forensic team documented a detail that defies all logic. One of the female victims was missing her tongue. The examiner noted it was entirely gone, explicitly stating this was not the result of animal predation or normal decay. The official record then introduces even stranger details. Laboratory tests detected high levels of radioactive contamination on several pieces of the victim's clothing. Meanwhile, residents in nearby areas reported seeing strange glowing orange spheres moving through the sky on the night the hikers died. These details break the basic laws of anatomy and survival. Kholat Syilk is an impossible crime scene where the trauma openly contradicts the environment. Standing on Kholat Syilk, the total isolation of the landscape becomes obvious. It is a massive, freezing expanse, entirely indifferent to human logic. The Soviet investigation was abruptly closed. The secret police stamped the final file with a chillingly vague conclusion. The official cause of death was listed simply as an unknown compelling natural force. Over the decades, people have proposed avalanches, secret military weapons testing, or even infrasound, a low-frequency acoustic vibration created by wind that is capable of causing intense biological panic. But no single theory accounts for a slashed tent, crushed ribs without bruising, radiation, and a missing tongue all at the exact same time. When you strip away the speculation, you are left with one indisputable fact. 9 highly trained people consciously abandoned warmth, shelter, and logic. Whatever stood outside that thin canvas felt worse than freezing to death. The enduring horror of the Dyatlov Pass is not about what we know. It is about the absolute dark of what we do not. It proves that somewhere in the freezing silence, there are things so unnatural that dying slowly in the snow becomes a final act of mercy.